Well, thank you so much for being here. And I'm just curious, how do you get the people in the community to know that these loans are available?
So in the early days of Water Credit, we were working directly with NGOs, our partners, to kind of get the word out about this. But then we recognized that because we thought that would be faster, we kind of just wanted to take it head on. But we knew that microfinance institutions existed out there, and that if we could make a pitch to them to come on board and start launching these types of portfolios, that we would have the leverage of literally thousands, if not tens of thousands of MFIs around the world. And so that's what we took a more patient process with, and now we have more than 25 microfinance institutions that are part of our network. And because those MFIs already have a client base, that's our natural distribution channel for reaching people. So there may be like only 25% of their client base that has a toilet or that has a water connection or a rainwater harvesting system. And so through their normal business outreach and marketing and education, that then generates the demand.
Again, leveraging that you don't have to recreate something that's already there, the infrastructure, right?
Hi, again, thank you so much for coming. On an even more basic level, how did you go about gaining the trust of the communities that you work with and coming in as sort of an outside organization into these communities?
Sure. So that goes all the way back to the founding principles of Water Partners, right, in 1990. And the operative word there is partners. So as I said, we don't build water projects, and so we work exclusively through a local network of NGO partners. We did in the early days, now supplemented with MFI partners. And so part of our evaluation process was to go with those partners into communities where they were working to assess their relationship with the communities. Are they well respected? Are the communities responsive? Are things working there? And so that's who we rely on to really navigate the local communities, the customs, the culture, to navigate the local government issues that might come up. So all of that really is devolved down into our partner network, because there's no way we could come in and understand these communities and do this work directly ourselves. And that was, back in 1990, there were a lot of organizations that were about that. And there's still some today that are basically, let's load up on the airplane and go fly down, and here's a village that we found out about, let's go help them. And it doesn't end well in most cases.
Elise, can you add to what impressed me was the village meetings and the bylaws that they adopted and the rules they adopted for the wells, for the gatekeeper, the key, and how they really took ownership. It wasn't an American group flying in to deliver it.
No, sure, and just to add to what Gary was saying, I think Haiti is a really good example of where, in any of the countries in which we work, but in Haiti in particular, the importance of those local partners, and particularly because I'm thinking of Roger, who's kind of our Haitian educator and one of our local partners in Haiti, who spent a great deal of time kind of having an important dialogue with the community. So what's your need? I understand we don't have, a solid water source, but if you want this, we're not, and we saw this in the community meetings, we're not just going to come in, spend $5,000, drill a well, and then none of you want to maintain it, or it's not a useful, asset for you. And so I think that entire dialogue, that engagement, first of all, it's the community who reached out to the local partner that said, we really need and want this, and creating an important social structure around that. So once, Water.org and a local partner will walk away, that well is really part of that community, from every aspect of how they will maintain it. Even in terms of getting the communities to pay a small fee for that water. In Haiti, a big issue is that, everything is handed out for free. There's not this sense of having to pay a small fee for water, and yet it's just really important to have a sense of ownership. And those fees are kept by the community members who are responsible for managing the well, to make sure that if there's any breakdown in the equipment, that there's just small resources available to be able to repair that. So I think it's really that close unity between the local partner and the local community, rather than having an external engineer from the US kind of pop into a community and say, I really think we need a well, trust me on this, let's build another well.
Next question.
Hi, thank you both of you for coming. And this past winter, I actually went to Ghana as part of Global Brigades for microfinance. But then we had a chance to visit the Water Brigade, and they've installed these water filters by the pond, but people still don't use it, and even though it only takes 20 minutes before full water. So I was wondering, how do you change people's mindset to maintain a long-term sustainability?
So yeah, I think that the global development field is replete with examples just like what you're talking about, and the challenge is, and with water.org, we literally get somebody approaching us almost every week with a silver bullet technology, a filter or a device or a new kind of pump that they feel like if you guys would just raise the money and buy 10 million of these things and then give them away, the problem's solved. And these are very passionate people who really care a lot about this. And so right away, we are what we call technology agnostic. So we do not look to try to change behavior with respect to a particular technology, and neither do our partner organizations. So, but there are things that you do need to work with in terms of hygiene education to change these practices, so that when people do understand that kind of the germ theory of disease, even that water in the pond is going to make you sick versus water from the well, and trying to change those practices associated with that. So our partners that do incorporate hygiene education into this, trying to change those basic behaviors around how they collect water, how they store it in the home, not dipping your hand into the water jug to get the water out because your hand can contaminate it, washing hands, and so on. And that is one of the hardest challenges associated with this, is that behavior change practice. But there's lots of good examples and models out there for how that can be done effectively with communities.
Hi, Gary. This is a bit of a more personal question, I guess, for you and your journey. But like you said, when you started up Water Partners, you were kind of on a scholarship from your wife, and she was helping you when your personal income was really low. Was there what was really firing you to keep going and not give up, or did you have a backup plan if it didn't work out for you personally?
Yeah, I do remember that. I don't really remember ever thinking I would give up, but I remember the fear that I might give up, if that makes any sense. Because even as an undergrad, I felt this incredible draw and passion towards this, and I felt, I was scared that it was going to stop, but it never did. And so I think that I don't know. I guess it doesn't sound like the classic story, because I guess most people who go through this might say, yeah, I thought I was going to give up, and I did for a little while, but then I never did, and certainly I just, whenever I ran into those walls, I just felt like I had to work harder to make sure it would happen. And no, I didn't really have a plan B. So.
Hi, thank you both so much for being here. There's so many water organizations out there, like Charity Water and People Water, and people that are selling water bottles and making profit off of that. What do you see as the future for water programs? Are there going to be more partnerships in the future, or do you think it's better to have these smaller programs that are working in different villages around the world? What's your take on that?
Well, first of all, I think that this is such a massive problem. It's all hands on deck. And so I think that there are advantages and disadvantages to different models. Different people approach things different ways. I think there are probably some things at the edges of some organizations that are clearly not the right approach, but there are a lot of things in the middle that I think just need to play out. And I think that from our perspective, what we try to do is to look at where can we have the greatest impact, where can we be the most sustainable, and where can we be the most scalable. And for us, our work really comes down to looking at this from the perspective of capital that I've mentioned, in terms of getting this whole concept of democratization of capital that's come about through microfinance, leveraging that to get that into the bottom of the pyramid in the context of water and sanitation. And the other thing we haven't really talked about much tonight that we really believe strongly in is trying to leverage more accountability in the water infrastructure system. There's literally billions and billions of dollars that flow into this every year, most of that through local governments themselves, a lot of that through people who are investing from the bottom up through their water bills. And a lot of that money is squandered. It just goes away. It's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. And so we believe that if we could take a lesson from the Arab Spring and the democratization of information in the same way we've done that with the democratization of capital and apply that to water and sanitation so there's more transparency, there's more accountability on the part of water utilities and governments to their citizens, then that can probably do more than drilling, a gazillion more wells, because that impetus to change the system and get water delivery done more effectively and efficiently can come from the bottom up, where people are being empowered as citizens. And that extends all the way down to the poorest of the poor. As we look at water credit and the access to finance, there are going to be a lot of people out there in that 2.5 billion who just simply can't afford a loan. So how are we going to help the others? That's going to be helping them find their voice as citizens so that governments will be more responsive and more efficient and more effective around this problem. So I think those things differentiate us and kind of the journey that we're on. I think that there are merits to getting wells drilled as long as you're doing that in a very responsible and sustainable way, that you're subsidizing those for some of the poorest populations. And I think there will be some weeding out. We merged, right? That's pretty unusual in the nonprofit sector. So we kind of at least reduced the number by one in terms of the organizations that were out there doing this.
Thank you both. Thank you both so much for being here. My question is, what are your goals for fundraising into the future? And is there a certain amount of capital you could say, hey, like we have this amount of money, we can solve all the problems there? How do you gauge that? Because it's such a hard problem to solve, and there's really unknown there.
Yeah, I think Elise can speak to kind of the micro absorption rate in Haiti, and I could probably talk a little bit more about the macro.
Sure. I think in Haiti, we launched a commitment which was to address what we call the long-term water and sanitation needs of about 50,000 people, and that has had a cost of about $2.9 million. I think if you look at the magnitude of the issue in Haiti, I believe about less than half of the population has access to clean water. So 50,000 people is still, it's a great number, but it's still probably small relative, to the amount of people who need access to water. I think what would be terrific to achieve through kind of the programs that we have in place and these new partnerships, like this new $1 million grant, is to kind of make the case for, not just handing out more water bottles or these kind of Band-Aid solutions, and really take the extra mile to really develop a very good relationship with the local communities and rebuild water infrastructure for a place like Haiti that can last for a long time, and integrate the right hygiene education components for communities to be active. But I mean, just to give you a sense of how much fundraising is needed, I think $3 million is our goal. After this goal is achieved, we would probably open the door to continue expanding that, but $3 million is about what you need for just 50,000 people in Haiti. But Haiti is also a different cost just because there is no infrastructure, so you really are starting from scratch.
And we don't have the leverage of water credit in Haiti because it doesn't seem like that's ready for that yet, although we've had a lot of conversations about that, and could we make something like water credit work there? That would then draw that number, the dollars per person, down. From a really macro level, if you were to try to solve the water crisis, in the next 5 years, that would require about $200 billion a year of investment over the next 5 years to get water services to everybody who lack that water and sanitation. Right now, the current external investment on the part of kind of all global aid, assistance, U.S. foreign aid, European aid, the whole thing all in, it's about $9 billion $8 a year. And so you've got a delta of about $191 billion that's going to have to be made up somewhere. And we're just not going to fundraise our way out of that with charity solutions. So we've got to figure out ways to, like I said, make the funds that are going in from those governments from the bottom up more efficient, and help leverage more capital that individuals, and especially people kind of in that, $2 to $5 a day income price range can bring to the table through tools like water credit.
You were talking about how you teamed up with Cartier. I was wondering why you guys, I don't know if you guys did, or have you guys tried partnering up with other water brands, like water bottles? I think it would be really good advertising for them also.
So we have partnered up with Camelback. In fact, we sold a water.org water bottle, and Camelback has been a really great partner with helping us raise funds around that. And it's interesting that with the toilet strike, we've had 3 toilet manufacturers reach out to us to see if there might be some way to develop a relationship there. So there have been some. I'm trying to think of other water-related ones that we've had. We've had a lot of different corporations with Swiss Re, Bank of America, PepsiCo, MasterCard, and on, but not so many that are really water-related.
No, there haven't been a lot of water bottle companies that have reached out. I mean, obviously, PepsiCo and some of these other companies have, drinks, different brands within the bigger company, but no, we haven't done a lot with water bottles. And, whether it's Cartier or PepsiCo or these different companies, I think the way we've gone about it is, sure, I mean, we looked at the different industries that these companies were engaged in, but it happened in a very dynamic way. And what I mean by that is, as we were looking at certain companies and the brand leverage they had, there's other new companies that approached us, and it's interesting to see which one turned out to have kind of a philanthropic approach that really aligned with ours. And what I would add to that, which kind of goes with another question we had, is, instead of kind of looking at this issue and thinking, let's address the global water and sanitation crisis just one project at a time, let's look at this a lot more holistically and just think about how to drive what we would call system change. And by approaching it in this manner, try to make better use of limited philanthropic money. That answer your question.
Last question.
Oh, shoot. Okay, sorry.
Maybe 2 more questions. We'll give it.
Okay, once again, thank you for sharing with us your passion and experience and what your project sounds absolutely amazing, since it really helps local sustain themselves. My question is that after the locals achieve their goal of obtaining a water source through their loans, what kind of relationship do you have with them after that? Do you help them create more, say they already got a drinking source, do you help them create like a bathroom and then private showers? Do you educate them about other uses of water or anything like that? So what is your nature of your relationship after the loans?
Well, a lot of those things about the education and the hygiene and the sanitation come even before the water. So a lot of that is already done as a prerequisite to moving on to the actual water implementation. And so again, with our local partners, many of them are working beyond just water. Some of our partners are water exclusive and sanitation exclusive. Others kind of do a broad set of interventions. So oftentimes that relationship with our partner in those communities continue. The relationship with water.org comes more in terms of the long-term monitoring and evaluation of that initiative. Sometimes we do that ourselves. Sometimes we do it through third-party researchers to really ascertain the sustainability of the programs that we're working on. So.
And just to add to that, I think our local partners, and sorry to always refer to Haiti, but for instance, one of the big programs that we're funding, our local partner has their office in that community, in that town. And before that project was launched, you had the community leaders knocking on our local partner's door every day saying, so when are we going to get this water system back up? And so the key asset of really working with those local partners is they're part of that community as well. It might be a little bit different with water credit, just based on how that's spread out, but those local relationships are key. It means that nobody's just going to walk out after the project is done and not have a relationship with the local beneficiaries.
And then just quickly, in terms of water credit, that goes one step further, because by helping them become customers as opposed to approaching them through a more NGO kind of charity solution, they then have a relationship with the utility, right? Where they have to pay their bill and they have that interaction with the utility. And so that's what we really like to see, so that this whole concept of charity and philanthropy, using it catalytically so that we can jumpstart markets and jumpstart those more kind of natural and kind of naturally sustainable relationships, like a customer with a service provider, rather than a beneficiary with a grant-driven ecosystem. Does that make sense? Yeah. So.
Sorry, I didn't get a question. We're running late. I wanted to finish it with a question to both of you, but more to Gary. You've got an audience of 19 to 22-year-olds approximately, thinking about what they're going to do next and how they can impact the world. And I wanted you to finish with a message about that and what you can do in this day and age versus when you started in terms of making an impact.
Yeah, and this comes up a lot, in terms of what people are asking, what can they do? Because this is a huge issue of our day. And I guess I would start by saying, I talked before about finding the intersection of your passion and the world's greatest need. I think that's a question all of us should ask ourselves. And that vocation that you have might be water. Probably not, right? It might be some other big development issue. It might be raising a family in the best way that you can, or doing whatever job the best way you can, if that's where your passion is. But I'd also say that never has it been easier as an individual and a young individual to have an outsized impact on a social issue. I think the fact that this whole concept that there's degrees and kind of minors and conferences all organized around social impact and social entrepreneurship, there's actually a network and a body of literature and academics to plug into to prepare you to take on whatever social challenge you feel you need to do. That's very different than 1990, pre-internet, when basically I had a mailing list of people to invite to a dinner. The power of Kickstarter and other things like that are out there to help you if you have a solid idea that can solve an issue, and to be able to raise the startup funds for that. It's never been more powerful. And I just look at even rewinding another generation to my father, who grew up during the Depression, and he was a telephone man. He climbed telephone poles. He never had the luxury of thinking about the possibility of quitting his job. His job was to climb the telephone poles so that he could put food on the table, and so that he could raise his 5 kids. And his universe of trying to help was his kids, right? He didn't have that luxury. So that whole evolution, that I got to go to college because of him, and I was able to kind of reach out and work at this issue. And now to see my daughter, who's a sophomore at St. Louis University, her whole existence right now is trying to figure out public health and how she can give back to this. And so it's just completely changed and evolved. I think, what this country has done in terms of building the economic base, the stability, the skills, so that we have the luxury to stop, to think, and figure out how do we give back to the world. And I tell you, if you think about this and find it's the right path, I think that you'll look back and say, you could look back and say, was I more satisfied by doing this, or would it have been more satisfying if I went to work to try to figure out how to figure out, the 6th generation iPhone? What would you rather have be your legacy as you look back on this? So I know it's not right for everyone, but you can make a living at it now. There's this really permeability between the nonprofit and the for-profit sector. you can kind of go into one and work for a while and spill over into the other. I mean, all the applicants we had for our COO candidate, the overwhelming majority of them were coming from the private sector. So there's lots of paths to this, and the important thing is to find out what's best for you and what works with your passion, and go for it. So.
It's great advice. Speaking of giving back, and we want you to come back. We hope you come back. But until he does, let's give some quick feedback to both of them. 5 years from now, what takeaways, what lessons, what advice are you going to remember from this talk tonight? Quick show of hands. Let's go.
Appreciate the water I drink.
Yes.
Life happens when you're busy making plans. Some of the keys in finding the world's greatest need and greatest passion.
Very good.
Change the system, not just the direct problem.
Excellent.
Anybody can make an impact.
Absolutely.
When the chips were down, we worked harder.
Very good.
Don't take the band-aid solutions, take the extra mile.
Very good.
Whenever I came up against a wall, I would just work harder.
Excellent. Sometimes you just got to jump in. I love that one.
If you wait around for the perfect solution, you wait forever.
It was the philanthropic cost that really interested the investors.
Excellent.
Live your life for others.
Very good.
You can either make an iPhone or solve the water crisis.
Some people do both.
You never thought you would give up, but there's the fear that you would give up.
The fear of giving up. Very good. Got one last one?
Every time you face adversity, you just double your efforts.
Great advice. I'm glad you guys had great questions.
That was so great. There was one more. I can't pass up even one more shred.
Anyone can be a customer.
That's right.
Sure.
Look
Thanks.
at
Thank you for that. That's really amazing. That's incredible insights.
You got to feel it. You gotta
Yeah.
feel it. It's a great audience. And Megan, you have something for our guests?
So on behalf of our class and show our appreciation for you being here tonight, we are proud to say that we've made a donation as a class to water.org. And thank you just so much for sharing your story with us, both of you, and being here tonight and really making us believe that we too can make an impactful and needed change in our own lifetimes. So for that, we can't thank you enough, but I'm very proud to give you the Distinguished Speaker Award. Oh, actually, I didn't do the same thing now.
Oh, there's two. Oh, okay.
So thank you very much for
Thank
being
you.
here tonight.
Gary
All
White.
right, so.
Thank you.